Well, what is happening, gang? Welcome back to Therapeutic Edge. It's very nice to have you here today. Thanks for stopping by. I have another monster knife on the table. Not that long ago, I reviewed the Riot T6000, and that's going to come back on the table here in a minute. This is a Miguron. This is the Arma II, another absolute beast of a knife, which I sort of like better than the T6000. I've known Sam Lau, the guy that runs Miguron, for, 5 years now. He's a nice guy. He is constantly interested in bringing unique and interesting knives to the table for me and for you. And he does it at a price that's not going to absolutely rupture your wallet, which is nice. The Arma II, he's made a bunch of big knives recently. And that's part of an ongoing conversation where, he likes to make small, easily pocketable knives. I'm behind that. But whenever we talk, I'm like, make it bigger. So recently he's made a bunch of really big knives. The Arma II here is one of them. This knife comes in at about $298, just under $300, which is a lot of money for a Miguron knife. But let's take a look at what you get. Well, first and foremost, let's do some size comparisons. Here it is against a very popular knife right now. This is the Kershaw Iridium, as you can see. The Arma II is just bigger in all regards. Here it is against the Ritter Hogue, which is a full-size Griptilian. As you can see, Arma II is considerably larger than that in every possible dimension. I mean, I like this thing. It is titanium. It is M390. It is running on ceramic bearings. Here it is against a 940. Right? I mean, and if you're into the really small stuff, here it is against the mini Ritter, which is a mini grip. Yeah. The Arma II is a big knife. And that makes me happy. I like big knives. Now I'm going to bring the T6000 back up onto the table. For those of you who didn't watch the video, it's a very, very fancy Riot with a very interesting locking mechanism. So I do know that they made a T1000, which was bigger still. But so this is almost $600. This is almost $300. Now, obviously, there is a lot more work in the T6000. But if you just want a beast of a knife, right? This is the one. They have a very similar cutting profile, very different blade shape, but where it counts, it's a very similar cutting profile. You just get a lot more blade on the Arma II. It's got a fully functional, I can talk, forward choil. Let's put this to the side. Everything is chamfered and milled beautifully. There's no smile at the base of the plunge. The micro milling on that titanium scale on both sides, even on the pocket clip, is beautifully done. Sam, his designers, and his engineers just killed it with this thing. We are frame lock. We are locked up at about 40%, but that is 40% of a really thick slice of M390. So let's get the basic specs out of the way, measurements, and then we're going to weigh it. I'm curious. All right, so it is 8.5 inches long overall. It's a nice big knife. You get 3.5 inches of cutting on 3 3/4 inches of M390. The grip area, from behind that flipper, we're coming in at 4 full inches, but if we add that choil back in, we're coming in at 5 full inches. That is a really big knife. Closed profile. Closed length. I can talk. Shh. Let's see. It's about 4 3/4 end to end. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to know this thing's in the pocket. I mean, at its widest, we are coming in at almost 1.5 inches. Yeah. Let's get the calipers out. So, the T6000 as I said during the review, is 5.7 millimeters of M390. Sam's knife, 6.1 millimeters. It's thicker. The blade's got a heavier blade than you get on the T6000. The handle at its thickest is 16 millimeters, which is going to be, 0.65 of an inch. This thing is a monster, but here's the thing. It's got a reasonably low clip, right? Not a lot of knife sticking out. It rides the pocket better than the T6000. I don't know why. It has to do with the way that it hangs, I guess, or the way that it... Part of it may be the complexity of all this milling means you're constantly aware of this thing in your pocket, whereas this, for all the milling and all the bits of work on it, it's relatively smooth. Look at the size of that backspacer. Action is fantastic. It really is. He managed to get this thing so that it's drop shutty without being a guillotine. See that? So it feels controllable, which is really nice. Makes a great sound on the close too. The full length, or nearly full length backspacer is milled. So there's a little hollow for the blade in there, right? And the scales themselves are really milled. That's showing up. Yeah, you can see that in there. This is gorgeous. For less than $300, it's amazing. Let's weigh it. A lot of reflection going on today. 8.5 ounces. Now, the other beast I have on the table, the T6000, 8.8 ounces. So this, although it is bigger in almost every way, is lighter than this. And I think that has to do with this fancy locking mechanism. I think that there's a lot of extra stuff going on inside this knife that's not happening here. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means, like, for sure, when this thing is opened and then resealed, it's essentially a fixed blade. And that's cool, except it's never actually a fixed blade. This is just a traditional frame lock. Excuse me. But it's lighter. I have a bunch of Miguron knives. I have the original. I have the Prayer that he released as his first knife. It's when I started talking to him. I love that knife. I love this too. Blade is super accurately ground. Some of his early stuff, the grind lines didn't always meet up, but on this, it's perfect. Stuff like this makes me happy. Anybody can make a knife. It's true. At this point, everybody has, right? I mean, how many people do you know that have their own knife brand at this point? It's everywhere. I think it takes something special to make a monster just for fun. There are companies, and there's a review coming on this soon, that are going in the wrong direction as far as I'm concerned. ZT used to make stuff like this, and quite frankly, a little more like this. The most recent ZT, which is an excellent knife, there's a review on this coming, is the 0044. Great knife, but it's not really a ZT anymore, is it? So companies like Riot, Miguron, various other companies, even Cold Steel at this point have really stepped into the game. Although their newest knife is not a monster. We're going to get to that a little bit later too. If you just want a pocket knife, there's lots of choices. As I keep saying, you can have whatever you want in a size that's convenient, relatively easy to carry. If you like monster knives, there are a few companies that are still doing that. Sam's decided Miguron is going to be one of those companies, and that makes me super happy. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This is the Miguron Arma II, probably my favorite Miguron knife in a couple of years, and an absolute monster. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask down in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.